I'm from Camden Garden Centre in North London, and it's a 28-year-old garden centre, completely commercial business, doesn't get any external funding, but we are a social enterprise, and there's a tiny little charity that owns Camden Garden Centre, and we have a remit to take on board a certain number of people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and that includes ex-offenders. We've been working with ex-offenders for about 14 years now. I recruit as often as not either directly from prisons or from the probation service, and one of the big advantages of that is that you get a case history which is actually more thorough than a Criminal Records Bureau check. A case history will give you a risk assessment and lots of details, so it's a very safe way to take on board a prisoner, and obviously some people I might reject because they're too much of a risk. But because we're a social enterprise, I am prepared to take on board people who are a bit more risky than perhaps other employers will do. And if I think that's going to be the case, rather than employ the ex-offender from the beginning, I'll put them on an unpaid work experience project, probably for just 2 or 3 weeks. And that gives me an opportunity to check that they can get to work every day and get to work on time. Because if they can't, and they're volunteers, then they can just leave. Whereas if I've employed them, it means that I'm sacking them, you know, and it's not, if this is the first job they've ever had, that's not going to be very good for their own morale if they've been dismissed. So those are the more risky ones. But others who I don't feel are such a risk, I'll employ them right from the outset, because that's the goal, is to teach them to earn a living themselves with their own brain and their own hand. We're working with ex-offenders really simply to try and reduce reoffending, because it's a no-brainer that if you can give an ex-offender a job and he can earn his own money honestly, then you dramatically cut reoffending rates. And I have, for example, got somebody at the moment who we've helped him to get a passport for the first time in his life. And identity is often a problem for ex-offenders because they've never had an identity before. They've got no passport, they've got no driving licence, they don't have utility bills. And it was interesting chatting to this man because he said he now wants an identity because he really does want to turn his back on crime. Not having an identity when he was a criminal was quite handy for him. Whereas now he really wants to become a citizen who's engaged with everything, and that's been really encouraging. Yeah. As a social enterprise, we can afford to be a lot more flexible and imaginative than larger institutions. And one of the things that we've found is that for ex-offenders who've, say, had a long history of substance misuse, who've led very chaotic lives, they couldn't really handle a full-time job. So we just decided that we'd take people on a part-time basis, and that gives them a more gentle introduction to the world of work, and that's been a great success, which I think we could only have done because we are a social enterprise and autonomous.